Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. Offensive coordinator interview name leaks again. What are my thoughts on the 2023 schedule? And does the University of Texas have to make it to the playoffs this particular year? Right. So let's get started. Similar to last year, offensive coordinator names have leaked. They're doing good for sites that are, this is a good time of the year for sites because you get people to come in, you get a lot of traffic driving to your particular website because people want to know, people want to know what are the names. So obviously Scott Frost's name has been thrown out. James Coley has been a name that's thrown out. Joe Brady has been a name. New to the party is Doug Nesmeyer, right? Obviously, Jason Candle's name was brought back up again. And I said, you know what? I'm going to sit it out this year. Because if last year is any indication, these particular names are coming out for guys that probably have interviewed. Probably, who knows when these guys have interviewed, right? Who knows? We don't know if they are recent interviews. And I feel like if the names are being disclosed, in my honest opinion, I feel like one or two things have happened. Either the name is just being thrown out there because it's an open job. The University of Miami is an open job because a lot of these guys have the same agents. Or there has been an interview with these particular guys and maybe they didn't make the short list, right? Earlier this week, I saw someone that posted that John Ruiz and I guess his son or whatever was on Dan Le Batard, and they were talking about the process of last year and how Mario didn't necessarily, Josh Gattis wasn't his first choice. And I said, man, if this ain't Jerry Jones and Steven, that's the first thing that I thought. Because they're very vocal, very Jerry Jones-esque, and hey, that's what that is. But I mean, who knows, man, in terms of these particular names, because the way I look at it is like this. Offensive coordinator wasn't hired until this month last year, and I believe Josh Gasmel got hired February 11th. I know some people are going back trying to calm the masses and talking about, well, he got hired February 11th last year, and I think still got hired February 23rd of last year. And I'm just like somebody who commented underneath that and said, is that supposed to give me confidence? Is that supposed to give me confidence, right? Because in actuality, some people have said that Josh Gattis' departure was in motion dating back to November. Excuse me. So if that's the case, then that means this particular coaching search or offensive coordinator hire is actually taking longer than it did last year. And one of the things that I've heard people say in dominoes, and I've never played, I've played dominoes, but I wasn't a good dominoes player. And the saying is, study long, study wrong. Which, in layman's terms, the longer you allow for this to go, the lesser you hit success, right? But I don't want to put that out there. But again, these particular names leaking and stuff like that is good for sites. It's good for us to go back and forth in terms of, pros and cons. Us going to Sports Reference, us going to other websites, PFL, all this stuff like this, and talking about that. And poor Doug Nesmeyer. Poor Doug Nesmeyer is getting hammered for putrid offenses at the University of Florida. And I even saw someone say it's Doug Nesmeyer's fault that Dak Prescott threw 17 interceptions this particular year. And I'm like, didn't his offensive coordinator get fired? But it's Doug's fault. I digress. Moving on. No, I'm a little late, but they say I'm a day late, $1 short in terms of what are my thoughts on a particular schedule. Well, my thoughts are this. It looks like a schedule that we've had for the last 15, 20 years. I see, obviously, we got Texas A&M second game of the season. That means that we got to get our ish in gear early. We don't have the cupcake, the usual cupcake in week 1. We got that cupcake in week 3. But after last year, I think we need to change the name from cupcake to Popeye's biscuit, right? And I'm going to tell you what I mean by Popeye's biscuit. You can eat it, right? You can eat it. But if you don't drink nothing behind it, boy, hey, they might have to be coming to resuscitate you. And the Heimlich maneuver. And that's what happened last year, Middle Tennessee State. You know, so Duke, those are the type of games, right? But these are my quick little thoughts on it. I'm interested to see what Texas A&M and Bobby Petrino does. I made jokes about the particular hire, obviously, because Jimbo hired someone who is essentially the same person as him. But I do think that by Petrino, Jimbo hiring him, I think it's kind of a move to where he maybe need to trust a different set of eyes. Again, Bobby Petrino's been a head coach before. Bobby Petrino has run a successful spread offense, obviously, run by, Lamar Jackson. And I believe they have like a dual threat quarterback in there, so maybe, you could have that. So I'm interested to see what they did. Obviously, they lost a lot of guys in the transfer portal, but they still brought in a relatively good class, and they still have some guys that were a part of their 2022 class, well, their 2021 class, their 20th class, and so forth. So they still have some talent, left on the roster. So it's not like they're devoid of said talent. So it should be an interesting game, nonetheless. I think after the game last year, I think that's when the injury bug started to bite us the most. So obviously maybe another year in the strength and conditioning program. I'm trying to check and make sure nobody pulls off. I'm waiting to get loaded. But guys should be a little bit more physical and ready for that game. And obviously getting that game this right here, the run game should be a little bit better. We might not have to depend on one running back. Offensive line should be a little bit better, but that's that. Now, the back half of October and the 1st of November, we have a gauntlet. North Carolina. We got Clemson. We got Duke. We got North Carolina. We got North Carolina, Clemson, Duke. NC State is going to be there, and Florida State. Right, so that's going to see exactly where we are in terms of if there's any actual growth from last year, right? Because by that time, many of the new guys that we have playing, or if we are in a situation where we have some freshmen that are getting some minutes and stuff like that, I think we should have some issues particularly ironed out. I do think the defense should be better, even though we're still devoid of depth in some particular positions. So maybe the second round of the portal can help, fill those particular holes. But right now, the schedule is what the schedule is. It's what the schedule has been for the last 15, 20 years. And it's up to the University of Miami to not be its own biggest enemy, right? But those are my particular thoughts. Obviously, I told y'all what my prediction was, 6-6. And we're going to keep it pushing. Right. So, University of Texas, Steve Sarkisian. Arch Maney's coming in the building. Quinn Ewers. Two perfect prospects, according to rankings, 2 perfect prospects at the quarterback position. Got some weapons on the outside. Played the University of Alabama very, very tough in Austin, Texas, in plus 100% temperatures, because I remember they had the thermostat beside the field, and it was hot at that particular game. What happens next year? Moving forward now. Texas, Oklahoma are going to make their trek over to the SEC. And I feel like that's even more pressure on the University of Texas to make the playoffs. Now, obviously, they're losing some talent. Obviously, Bijan Robinson leaving. But they recruited very, very well for a team that had higher expectations than, what they ended up being. But I do think they do have to make the playoffs. I do think it's very imperative for them to make the playoffs because you already got the heads up on the University of Oklahoma because they're still going to try to, they're still building. Obviously, their head coach is a first-time head coach. TCU is going to be there, but TCU may not be as strong as they were, even though I feel like they should not be written off, right? Because I think what the misconception is that sometimes when teams have these type of 1 year jumps in win-loss column, a lot of times those are usually happening with coaches who may not necessarily be that good. The first name comes to mind is Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp ended up going 11-3 in his second year, but I think Sonny Dykes is regarded higher, and I don't think that TCU is just gonna go away. But at the same time, Steve Sarkisian, you got what you need. Got your quarterback. Offensive line should be good. Receivers, defense should be a little bit better. The University of Texas is in a position right now that I think they need to make the playoffs. And the reason I say that is because, Steve, if you don't make the playoffs, or if you have another lackadaisical type of year, then you go into the SEC on the hot seat. And one thing about the SEC, if you're on the hot seat, don't worry. You won't be on that seat very long. You'll be out of there. So I think if he were to make the playoffs this particular year, I think that could preserve his particular job. And Texas is going to be one of the teams that I'm looking at this upcoming year because I think they have the potential to be or to do what many people thought USC was going to do last year, which is be right there in the playoffs. And I think Texas is a little bit more equipped this year just because Texas is a little bit better of a whole team than USC was last year to make that particular run, right? But obviously, of course, that's not Kane related, but, when I do these type of videos, when I have 3 or 4 different subjects, I'm just going to, throw something from just general college football out there. So this, just bear with me, you know what I mean? But as always, man, it is always about the you. Don't get it twisted. But like, share, subscribe, and I'm out.